Hi everyone, Ryan Duffy here from Precision Microbes.
And Tommy Heffernan here as well, and today we're going to look at, we're in the season of Scour Outbreaks, we're in that stage of the season. I suppose what we do in a Scour Outbreak, Precision Microbes and Hydro-STIM, let's go with 10 minutes. Ryan, Scour Outbreaks, I suppose, cause the scour.
Well, there's a multitude of microorganisms that can cause scour: bacteria, viruses, protozoa and parasites. Some of the most common ones in Ireland: Cryptosporidium, everyone knows crypto, Rotavirus, coronavirus, maybe E. coli, Salmonella, Dublin, they get incriminated as well. They can cause a variety of things: malabsorptive diarrhea, secretory diarrhea, a variety of different things, but these are the main pathogens that we're dealing with.
We also see nutritional scours, of course, particularly we see it in calves being bought in even off farm. Maybe issues with milk replacer, mixing, osmolality, stuff like that. And those non-infectious scours can actually cause issues as well because they can lead to other things.
Yeah, I often think that they're more frustrating to try and get on top of, and a lot of the time whenever calves experience these non-infectious or nutritional scours, they frequently then succumb to an infectious scour, which complicates the interpretation of what's actually going on.
When we think about scour, malabsorption or maldigestion or malabsorption scour, we think about the villi. So what's actually happening at gut level? Do you want to show us what's when we think about scour?
Yeah, well, if we think about the actual gut lining itself, it looks like a number of waves. It's just all these little projections, these little finger projections
within the lumen wall.
Within the actual gut itself. And the reason for that is surface area. Mm-hmm. Increase as much surface area so that we can absorb things as efficiently as possible. The problem is these villi and the microvilli, they even get even smaller again. They start getting damaged or destroyed by certain viruses or certain protozoan parasites. So obviously it makes perfect sense if we're putting in expensive milk replacer or putting in whole milk or whatever we're putting in our crunch. If the calf is incapable of actually absorbing it because these have been damaged, it's only going to contribute to scour.
And they're losing water by osmosis out the way as well, so your calf's getting dehydrated.
Exactly.
So when we have a scour outbreak, I suppose, think about a scour outbreak on a farm, certainly in seasonal systems. I don't know, these isolation pens, people will talk about removing the sick calf, which is good in principle, but when you have a big outbreak in calves, it tends to be batches, isn't it?
Yes. The best case scenario is it's isolated to batches as opposed to all the different pens, but unfortunately frequently that's the case.
So what's your views on taking calves out to hospital pens, then isolating calves when scour starts occurring? Well, are we just spreading disease around the farm?
Well, potentially, but if there's a proper isolation pen, obviously we're potentially removing those calves, but it does come back down to, a lot of the time if we have a batch of 15 calves, say for example, 1 or 2 of them may show clinical signs, but the other 13 are going to end up potentially showing clinical signs in 3, 4, 5 days. So we might be cutting the head off a snake, but the snake is still in there, in that we've removed the problem, but have we actually stopped the source and the spread? Okay. And unfortunately that's infrequently the case.
So we're talking about scour outbreaks. You're in the middle of a scour outbreak. Where does Precision Microbes fit in on that? So some people, we talk about 30 for 30 and long-term use, but our product can be used as a gut stabiliser. So what we typically say is for mild diarrhoeas, along with your veterinary advice and whatever else you might be doing, is 60 ml for 5 to 7 days orally in milk or mixed with electrolytes to help with stabilising the gut. E-lactis is actually a licensed stabiliser that helps with stabilising the damage in the gut and helping recovery. Okay, so that's one element of a scour outbreak in relation to recovering. That's where Precision Microbes be used at higher doses. Now in suckler calves, people can use that twice daily. You can go up quite high, so it depends on what your own vet says. You can use 60 ml twice a day for 3 to 4 days, but typically if you're getting in early, 60 ml for 5 to 7 days.
Yeah, and that's only the gut stabiliser, that's only the probiotic component.
Yeah.
So the postbiotic components of bacteria have been shown to really enhance gut recovery as well. So if there has been significant damage, we can actually help with enterocyte repair, which essentially means cellular repair at the gut lining.
So this year, one of the things we've had for the last couple of years is during scour outbreaks, either on 30 for 30 or for the first time using the product, you need to use an electrolyte to rehydrate the calf as well. And you know a lot about this product, Hydro-STIM, which is our liquid product. So when we think about rehydrating calves, at a top level, how important is that?
It's fundamental, because if a calf is dehydrated, just like ourselves, we just do not thrive. We don't get up, we don't consume as much as what we want, and ultimately what do we want? We want healthy calves, but we want calves that are thriving, are achieving the average daily gains that we want, and if they're sick or they're dehydrated, they're not going to consume. And that's a big issue. So the reasons that calves do not consume milk, or they don't stand up, or they end up getting pneumonia, is simply because dehydration, number one, electrolyte imbalances, because they're essentially holding the whole electrical circuitry together, and number three, metabolic acidosis. So those are three things that have to be corrected.
And Hydro-STIM does them at a really scientific, at a high level. So talk about why Hydro-STIM is. So it's a dose rate per calf is 200 mils of the liquid to 1.8 litres of water. And just before that as well, if you have 10 calves in a group, say you can use 2 litres to 18 litres of water. And it's actually very palatable. We've seen that in farm, haven't we? So it can be group fed to calves.
Exactly. So that's going to give each single calf a 2 litre dose. So that's going to correct a lot of the fluid deficits that are existing. Now, the main thing with this is we're big promoters of continued milk feeding. That's not just because energy is getting into the calf, but also more volume, more liquid. So therefore, it's going to help the calf actually correct those fluid deficits that exist, but also the ones that are going to continue to occur. Because this damage that's been occurring, that doesn't just go away overnight. So there is going to be continuing ongoing fluid losses. So it's very important to keep fluid going into the calf as much as possible.
So we have a theoretically mild outbreak of diarrhea occurring on farm. You want gut stabilisation with the microbes. Then talk about application of Hydro-STIM. How often, what you need to do, obviously talk to your own vet, but what's in principles, what are we saying about Hydro-STIM?
Yeah, so we would define it as a high osmolality product, so a lot of particles in a certain amount of fluid. So with that there, we have to be somewhat cognizant of the fact that calves are also receiving another high osmolality liquid in the form of milk replacers.
Okay.
So it's important to keep them separate from that perspective. From a logistical perspective, it makes sense because of the osmolality, but it also just means the calf will consume more liquid, and that's going to help correct the electrolyte imbalances, the fluid imbalances, and of course metabolic acidosis, and achieve the average daily gains that we want them to achieve.
Okay, so in theory we've 20 calves in a pen. They're starting to have diarrhea. Let's put this into application. So I would say if you haven't used Precision Microbes before, that's when I would go in at 60 mils per calf at 5 to 7 days. Now let's think about the rehydration part of our offering on Hydro-STIM. What's the application of Hydro-STIM to those 20 calves with mild diarrhea occurring?
Well, you've kind of already alluded to it, so that's 10 calves. So if we were to put it up to 20 calves, 4 litres into 36 litres of water. And essentially group feed them. The reason that we're big promoters of group feeding is because we've had this discussion about sick calves in isolation. All of these calves that are in a pen have been subjected to the same pathogen. It's just a matter of, will it take hold of every single one of them, or will it stay with the 2 or 3 calves that I'm looking at that are sick right now? The reality of it is most of those calves are going to get some degree of a dysbiosis or a gut upset, so they'll all benefit from an oral electrolyte solution.
3 to 4 days midday feed, what are you thinking?
Yeah, probably in a mild case, probably 2 days would be more than enough. We probably wouldn't have to go to 3-4 days. If it was a moderate or severe case, maybe 3 or 4 days of an electrolyte in the middle of the day, or alternatively just before you go to bed, just separate from the milk feeding.
Excellent, brilliant. So these, if you're using Precision Microbes in that outbreak scenario with Hydro-STIM and you're seeing a response and recovery in these groups of calves, that's where we say to people to go back with new calves coming along with the 30 for 30, lower doses of microbes. You're again reducing the impacts of digestive upsets, improving recovery time. You're not eliminating calf diarrhea, but certainly it's a transition. If that's the first experience you have with Precision Microbes, going for 30 for 30 is where the real benefit is. So any calves coming post the rest of the season later on where infection pressure is high, that's where people have moved to.
Yeah, and like if we think of it, we're putting in 4.5 billion microbial cells of a gut flora stabiliser at that dose rate. That's going to offer significant competition for the bad guys, the cryptos, the rotaviruses, the E. coli's, and then we have the postbiotics going in, which are going to enhance gut recovery. As you say, a rapid gut recovery, which is what people want to see on the ground.
So that's the sick calf kind of protocol, and then back 30 for 30. That's it. Tech and 10 this week. Anything else on Scour Outbreaks?
No, I think we've covered it fairly well. We've got some really clear-cut solutions there, so that's the most important thing for people.
All right, thanks for listening.
Thank you.